So I assume that the Israel lobby is ultimately in control of these kinds of decisions. And if you get a call from Mr. Netanyahu and he wants X, Y, and Z and support for X, Y, and Z, he's going to get what he wants. End of discussion.
How does a small nation, a beneficiary of over $300 billion in U.S. foreign aid since its inception, exercise so much control over the U.S. government? In fact, far more than it seems the U.S. exercises over it. Well, Douglas Macgregor is here just on Andrew Napolitano to explain this and these dynamics and why we are led astray in such ways through our unholy alliance with Israel. So let's get his take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
The United Nations issued a very detailed report, which our friend and colleague Jeff Sachs has read the entire report. It's about 100 pages long. It details with excruciating and unassailable detail. It recounts in excruciating and unassailable detail the barbaric acts being committed by the IDF and the use of starvation as a means of repressing the populace. Doesn't history teach that some force at some point in time will come in to put a stop to a Holocaust of this magnitude?
Well, I think what you're saying is that justice can be delayed, but justice eventually finds its way. I think that's probably true. The problem that we have right now is that we're giving a lot of evidence for the old observation that there is nothing more reliable than a person that can be bought for cold, hard cash. And I'm afraid that's what the Israel lobby has discovered about us. We have been purchased. Our government has been purchased. There's no moral justification for any of this. There's no strategic justification for it. You know, this recent attack on Qatar was something that we knew about. We helped to enable it, frankly. The British provided air refueling assets. All of this is part of the same lobby and same power in the United States and in the West right now.
Yeah, you know the heroic mantra, my soul is not for sale? Well, that's not a doctrine America's ruling class clings to whatsoever. Far from it. In fact, AIPAC brags about the power and control it has over U.S. representatives on its own website, talking about how it essentially has 361 congressmen in the bag voting for Israel first policies through and through. This is a bipartisan thing. I mean, when Bibi Netanyahu, I don't even like to call him that, Netanyahu, because I'm not chummy with him. I don't want to be chummy with him. Whenever he walks into Congress, he gets an amazing reception, far greater than any reception that any U.S. president would get. And this is a bipartisan cause. So if you think there's a grand clash of ideologies in Washington over foreign policy, you're wrong for all the reasons that Macgregor just said. Our ruling class has a price, and it's been paid by Miriam Adelson and the Israel lobby. That's just the truth.
Will this continue? I guess it will. At some point, the money may run out. We don't know under what circumstances. Our economies are fragile. If you look at the bond market, which the British call gilts in London, it's only a matter of days, maybe weeks, before the entire British economy implodes. Financially, the rest of Europe is not in much better shape. And of course, we're not far behind. So I guess when these things happen, there will be an epiphany, and we will simply walk away because we can't afford to stay and do what we're doing.
Yeah, it's hard to know when the reckoning will come, but I have an idea as to why Netanyahu and the Likudniks are so aggressive right now. They know that the dynamic of demographics shifting in the U.S. isn't in their favor. Younger people are completely turned off toward this Israel supporting attitude, and older people generally aren't. That's a generality, but that's true. So they think that they only have 10 years to consummate the Greater Israel Project, to expand Israel's borders further than they are. And that's what they're doing in the West Bank right now, in Syria and Lebanon. That's what they're trying to do with this Gaza occupation and the genocide there. They're trying to ethnically cleanse it and use the hostages as an excuse when they could get those hostages back tomorrow if they wanted to negotiate with Hamas. Hamas has always been willing to do that, but they don't because it serves as a propaganda tool for them. Just as anti-Semitism does. Max Blumenthal talks about this a lot. That regime thrives off anti-Semitism. They love it. They use it. They use it as a tool to hoist at any critic of Israel, no matter what that criticism is. You must just be a Jew hater. And they do this to Norm Finkelstein, too, by the way, the son of Holocaust survivors. That's what they do. These are their tools. It's their repertoire. And this is how they propagandize Americans to their side.
But at the moment, that's the best we can do. It would be wonderful if President Trump simply picked up the phone and said, look, I've gone as far as I can with you on this, and I can't in good conscience as the president of the United States continue. I see no evidence that that will happen.
Agreed. And that's despite how much money they're given. Trump never exercises leverage over the Israel lobby or Israel itself. Instead, the Israel lobby, a much smaller, less powerful country, and the beneficiary of so many billions in U.S. aid, gets to tell Trump what to do. That's why Netanyahu is America's real president. I mean, that's kind of a meme, but doesn't it seem true sometimes, guys? Let me know down below if you agree on that.
Does Trump control Netanyahu, or does Netanyahu control Trump?
I think that's self-evident. It's Mr. Netanyahu is the de facto president when it comes to matters in U.S. foreign and defense policy. I don't think there's any question of that at all. I mean, right now, you and I were talking off camera before this began. Friends inside the Department of Defense who are very knowledgeable and involved right now in the inventories of missiles and rockets.
Oh, right. Please go to this. I forgot about it. Please.
Yeah, well, they contacted me and they said they used an acronym that you found interesting. It's essentially an informed estimate that says right now, if we continue on the current path, we're 7 to 8 years behind the Russians and probably the Chinese in terms of our inventories. Now, we could improve that with both legacy and new technology to about 3 to 4 years. And they said this is not absolutely hard facts. They said this is our informed estimate, and they used the acronym SWAG, which we frequently do, which is a wild ass guess, but it's based on their experience and the times for manufacturing this equipment. And we have no surge capacity, as we've discussed before.
This is all for using missiles to strike Yemen for a month, to get into a war with Iran, and use missiles for the purposes of Ukraine. So ironically, in the name, in the propaganda of defending democracy and defending our national security interests, our ruling class, the war regime, the Trump administration, and the deep state are jeopardizing U.S. national security by devoting weapons that could be used for defensive purposes. And we don't even need all of them, by the way. You know, the Pentagon budget is based on empire building. It's not based on national defense. But it's jeopardizing the defensive capabilities we could have for these fruitless, stupid forever wars and proxy wars and entanglements that the founders warned us against. Rightly so.
The point is that if we were to go to war with any major power, we would run through our existing arsenal very, very quickly. So if we were really concerned about our own security, which I think we should be, we would be much less provocative than we are. Now, obviously, Venezuela is very weak. And Venezuela would not tax us greatly if we decided to destroy it. That's not a vote in favor of doing so. I think it's a dumb idea and unnecessary.
Amen.
But if we find ourselves on a collision course with the Russians, whether it happens in Eastern Europe or it happens in the Middle East, or God forbid the Chinese, their capacities to produce are far greater than ours. Their inventories are far greater than ours. And we can't make up for the last 10, 15 years in the space of 6 months or 12 months. We'll simply run out, and then we'll be naked in the face of overwhelming military power.
Yeah, it's, basically approaching the line of treason to basically adhere to enemies' wishes, which is Israel. They call Israel an ally, but it's certainly not the ally of the U.S. The U.S. is the ally of Israel, just bankrolls it and, echoes its refrains in terms of propaganda and foreign policy desires. But to side with those entangling powers over the American public and defense sure does seem pretty duplicitous and immoral and backward and unrepublican and anti-liberty, certainly so.
I want to ask about the Israeli attack on Doha and its facilitation by the U.S. Why does the U.S. permit attacks on allies?
Well, I think the only answer that I can come up with at this stage is that the Israel lobby controls these decisions. I can't imagine that if President Trump were a completely independent actor, that he would decide so quickly to cast aside sort of international norms when it comes to negotiation. So I assume that the Israel lobby is ultimately in control of these kinds of decisions. And if you get a call from Mr. Netanyahu and he wants X, Y, and Z and support for X, Y, and Z, he's going to get what he wants. End of discussion.
Well, that says it all on the sad answer to Napolitano's question. Why does the U.S. permit that Israeli strike against Qatar and the diplomatic team that was trying to arrange for a ceasefire and hostage exchange, which, by the way, again, Israel doesn't want. That's why they killed them. So that pretext remains for them to, destroy innocent lives in Gaza, continue this genocide. The reason why that's true is because there's a hierarchy of allies. All allies of the United States are not on the same playing field. And again, I say allies in quotations here, right? Israel is supreme above all. It's superlative. It's considered number one. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if, the United States was closer to respond and sooner to respond to an attack on Israel than it would be to respond to attack on, say, North Carolina. Because we saw how disaster aid happened, right? Recently with natural disasters there. We saw the, train crash in Palestine, Ohio, and things like that, where the U.S. just does not care because the lobbies don't care. The big banks and the military-industrial complex and AIPAC don't exactly care about the American populace. They want a steady money stream, going from the tax base and the middle class to the rich bomb manufacturers and the Zionist interests that captivate our foreign policy regime. That's the sad truth, but that's what's going on here, and that's why the U.S. will look the other way when Qatar is bombed by Israel. But if Israel is bombed, that's just going to draw the U.S. into another entangling war every single time. That's what happened with Iran, even though Israel obviously started that. So that's where we're at now. Douglas Macgregor is 100% right. The Israel first mentality is totally toxic. It's evil. It's maniacal. It's backward. It's counterintuitive. It's just horrendous in every single way. It's egregious and malevolent. It's not something that we should be a part of or want to be a part of if we truly want to reflect American first values. But what do you think? Let me know down below. Am I right about this? Is Douglas Macgregor right about this? Is the U.S.-Israeli relationship backward? Is it just wrong-headed and needs to be shouted from the rooftops about how much influence it has over our government? How Benjamin Netanyahu gets away with everything despite being a war criminal, a fraudster, a scam artist, a propagandist? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would also mean the world to me if you consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking the join button below. You can help support the channel, but I'm going to give you a return gift for that if you do. I'll let you have access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube if you do that. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.